Bonjour à tous. Goedenamiddag iedereen. Welcome everyone. Welcome bij onze tweede sessie van Export Talks. Vorige week hebben we over het exportdiagnosis gepraat. En hoe kan u weten als uw bedrijf klaar voor export is? Het replay en het presentatie zullen binnenkort op onze website beschikbaar worden. En natuurlijk, als u nog vragen over dit topic hebt, kunt u deze vraag per e-mail naar ons sturen. Cette semaine, nous entrons dans le vif du sujet de l'export, puisque nous abordons un sujet capital lorsqu'il s'agit d'exporter, la sélection de vos marchés cibles, puisque effectivement, tous les marchés ne sont pas adéquats au même moment pour vos produits et pour vos services. Notre expert Vincent Repay abordera dans quelques instants les éléments à prendre en compte dans votre choix de marché, ainsi que les outils existants qui vous permettront de faire ce choix le mieux possible. Practically speaking, the webinar will be held in English. We have divided the webinar into 20 minutes parts, and after each part, you will have the opportunity to ask directly your question to Vincent. If you have a question, just click on the raising hand button, and when the Q&A session starts, I will give you the floor. Just don't forget to put your microphone on before speaking and to switch it off when you are done. You can ask your question rather in English, French, or Dutch. This is not a problem. And if you don't feel secure enough to ask your question directly, you can write it down in the chat box, and I will be glad to ask Vincent. So before starting, a little poll. So the question now is, how do you select your targeted market? What do you use when you want to launch your product or service in a new market? So normally, you have the poll appearing on your screen. And of course, when the presentation will start, you will have more information about that subject. I'll give you 10 more seconds to vote. 5 seconds. Okay, thank you very much. So now, Vincent, you have the floor. I'll make you presenter. Yes, so now you should be able to share your screen.
Thank you, Thomas.
And you have the floor, Vincent.
Thank you, Thomas. So welcome to everybody. Good afternoon. So we will start today to discuss about the market selection. The market selection, of course, based on your own company requirements and so on. So meaning that everybody will select a market about various criteria, various of their own criteria, but I speak how to select generally, meaning that what you have to be sure before doing further step on the market. So last week we discussed about diagnostic export diagnostics. So market selection has to be closely studied according to the diagnostic export that the company, so your company, has to do first to estimate its own level, what we discussed last week, competence and readiness to sell abroad, meaning that production, human resources, research and development, as well as product service adaptation, and finally, financial capacity strength of a company have to be evaluated toward a selected market. So meaning that all this you have already foreseen, and now you will go into a market. But first, let's say, you will have a close look to the market that at first you want to investigate, but is it really the market that you need for your product or your services? So how to choose this potential market fitting with your company capacity? So there are some, let's say, points that I would like to highlight. So of course you can have heard about the needs of your product or services on this targeted market, meaning that you know that your product or your service is rated on the market. Why not? You can have the size of the market. So don't forget, we are in Belgium, 11 million inhabitants. If you dream about China, we are nearly with 1.5 billion consumers in China. So of course, if it's chocolate, that's not the same to investigate Luxembourgian market with 600,000 inhabitants or China with 1.5 billion, for example. Third could be also the level of market coverage intensity that you want. So we have already discussed about this, but do you want to sell your product everywhere? Do you want to have your product in some dedicated place? Or is it really a high-end product that you want to sell in very few quantity, but at a very expensive price? Of course, this could change during the life of a company or even during the life of a product. Finally, I draw your attention to what we already discussed last week, the cultural affinity of your company. So meaning that if you have difficulty to communicate because of a language or because of, let's say, the openness mind of a company toward a market and toward the cultural aspect of this market, of course you have a problem. I remind you that in Belgium, lots of people like to enjoy the weekend on Saturday and Sunday. It's not at all the case in the whole world. So there are some Muslim countries where, let's say, the busiest day is the Sunday, for example. Of course, on Sunday, you are not there because you are on weekend. You want to go ahead on this market. Are you ready to do so? So it was, let's say, in our diagnostic export last week. Of course, all this have to be investigated, but not only. So I'm in Belgium, and in Belgium, the size of the company and of the new people who want to sell abroad is quite small, meaning that compared to some other countries, the financial capacities of a company are quite limited as well. So if I do a such seminar, webinar for German companies at a German Chamber of Commerce, I will not highlight this point in first, but in Belgium, yes. Because what is very important in Belgium, most of the companies don't have a big capital, meaning a very high capital in hundreds of thousands of euros. Most of the small companies and so on have the minimum capital that is legally needed. So of course you cannot lose your capital or you cannot be affected by non-payments at the first foreign sale. So the most important thing for a Belgian company is to being paid as foreseen contractually, meaning that you are able also to determine when you want to be paid in order not to jeopardize the financial strength of your company. So for this, of course, if you don't know anything to international, you will first think about the solvability of your purchaser. Do you have a good customer? I remind here that I speak about a purchaser, but here we are only at the selection of a market. So of course, if there are 1,000 clients on the market, you will not go to check the solvability of each and every company on the market that you can be interested. So second thing could be the average commercial risk of private company in the targeted market. It's something that can seem strange for you, but that's the trend of this market. And of course, I will present you a tool just after where you can see this kind of thing. Third thing is the political risk in the targeted market. So when we speak about political risk, most of the people, let's say, without knowing, they are thinking to war, to revolution, and so on. But there are many other things, and we will discover later on. So I put the things here just by a step that company can, let's say, have idea on. But the reality is that you have just to do the opposite. And that's why, let's say, I say that selecting your foreign target market is ability to be paid. And first thing that we have to look is the political risk on the market. I will explain just after. Then the average commercial risk. If these two are quite positive, you can go ahead, and then later on, you will check all your prospects if they can pay you. This will come later, but first we have to focus on political risk and average commercial risk. So how to do this? So we start first with the political risk. So even if media or business community speak a lot of possible contract in some countries, or if there are some trends to focus on specific market, that's like I told you before, or Chinese is a very big market, everybody want to be there. Now that's after the election in the US, perhaps some people dream about US, but the situation of the political risk have not changed from Mr. Trump to Mr. Biden. That's a country, and it has its own political risk, and we will describe what it is. So political risk is the key element to be able to foresee to deal with a country. So if political risk is bad, normally you have no reason to go on this market. So how to know this political risk? I have a website for you, Credendo, and we will go on that website just after. But first, I speak about what is included in the political risk for each and every country in the world. That means that this political risk on the website of Credendo, you find it for each and every country in the world. So first, you have the political risk estimated with the political or assimilated events, let's say that's war, revolution, riot. Of course, everybody thinks about this on the first, but in fact, the real critical point is the second, foreign exchange shortage. So that's why you don't have to focus on a company abroad in order to know if she can pay you. Because, for example, if you have the balance sheet or of an Algerian company, the balance sheet is not done in dollars or in euro. It's done in Algerian dinar, and it's published in Algerian dinars. So if an Algerian client has to pay you, he has to pay you in euro or in dollars. But the Algerian company does not have necessarily this euro or this dollars. They have to go to a bank and they will exchange their dinar towards euro or dollars. Where are coming from this foreign money, meaning dollars or euro? It's coming from what Algeria is selling abroad and what is driven to the Algerian banks. And that's the political risk, because in some countries like Belgium, and more generally most of the West European countries, you can freely send and receive money in any country, with any country, whatever the currency is. I mean dollars, euro, British pounds, and so on. But in countries like Algeria, for example, but it's also the case in Vietnam and so on, if you want to pay a foreign company, you need to present a file to your bank that will be submitted to the central bank of a country, so equivalent to the Belgian National Bank or European Central Bank, and they will give or not agreement to pay, meaning that if you don't take into account the political risk, meaning if the country has foreign exchange enough to pay foreign, you are at risk. The political risk covers also all the purchase from the state or public company that are directly linked with the state. Finally, it covers natural disaster and also the risk of embargoes and so on. So embargoes meaning that, for example, some years ago during the summer, Russia decided an embargo on Belgian pear and apples, meaning that, okay, you have a contract with a client, you send the goods there, but finally they cannot enter in Russia. And if it don't enter in Russia anyway, your product will be bad and so on, and you have lost money. So the political risk cover all this. And how is it evaluated on Credendo website? So you have a rating from 1 to 7. So the 1 is the best, meaning that there are no risk. The 7 is the worst. And of course, as Credendo is a credit insurer, according this rates, if you want to secure by an insurance or this, we will see later on the next webinar, you will have to pay an insurance premium, and the insurance premium is linked with that factor. So, level from 1, the best, to 7, the worst, according own evaluation from the credit insurer. What they do, credit insurer, they receive some figures, some data, and they have also some experience on the market. And they have on a defined market, let's say a policy, meaning that they do a rating. And all this is not coming only from inside that public, that credit insurer. It's coming also, let's say, from an association linking all the public credit insurer in the world, but that are mostly located in Western countries. That's called the Bern Union. So meaning that if the Swiss credit insurer has a better experience with a country, he will notify to Bern Union, and this data is available also for the Belgian credit insurer. So one thing that influences the political risk is also, let's say, the duration of your contracts. So the duration of a contract, that's from when it enters into force, generally when you sign it, till the end of the obligation, meaning the end of the obligation is often the last payment due to the client in the framework of a contract or a purchase order. So this a credit insurer can do. So let's say he examines the risk link with the state where your clients or your clients are located. But they do something else that must interest you. We discuss about the commercial risk, the risk of your client. But the credit insurer does not look only every individual risk. They have also information about the trends of all the companies inside a country and sometimes inside a sector inside a country. Meaning that they establish a rating for the average commercial risk, and this average commercial risk, it takes into account the economic and financial indicators affecting all private companies on the market. So, for example, the consequence of foreign exchange variation. So imagine that in Algeria, they have to pay their supplier in dollars, and the value of the dollars doubles towards, let's say, the dinars. Of course, the company needs more dinars to have the same amount of dollars, and it can be a problem for them. This takes into account also the inflation. And for example, in a country neighboring Belgium, there is also an effect considered by the credit insurer. That's the Brexit that will be effective, except if there is an agreement. Let's say the effect of the Brexit will begin to be seen if no agreement on the 1st January of 21. Meaning that till now, even if UK is not anymore in European Union, there has been no change since end of last year because we are in a transition period. But if there is no agreement, let's say the credit insurer foreseen problem for UK company, we will go to see all this on the website, but of course there is a problem because of the consequence of the COVID. For the moment, all the country for the average commercial risk in Western countries, let's say, are in bad situation, and I will explain you why just after, and I will tell you also what it was in January this year. So, second indicator for the average commercial risk is the payment experience of debtors. So, meaning companies in some country pay faster than in other. But also, let's say, for example, in Western Europe, the companies in Finland pay quite quickly. That means less than 1 month. But if you go to Greece, generally they pay after 4 months. If you go to Spain, 90 days. If you go to France, around 60 days. So of course, for your company, it has an impact. So let's say this average commercial risk, let's say, is very important to consider for you. And also, there is something that I want to notice, the institutional context. So let's say the quality of legal system to claim unpaid invoice, for example. Just a little experience from my side. I deal a lot with some German companies for a Belgian group in the past. If the German company were selling to the Belgian company, that was not a problem. But when I wanted to purchase from them, from a French subsidiary of this Belgian group, they don't want, because they don't want to deal with French company. Why? Because if a French company does not pay its invoice on time, it is very difficult for a German company to recover the money inside, let's say, the French system. So this is very important to examine this average commercial risk. And so you will see on the website, there are 3 different ratings. A, low, that means payment on time. B, normal, so meaning that people pay on time or with a little delay, but you don't have to foresee, let's say, that they don't pay. C, you have important risk of non-payment. So we, once again, this. So now, let's have a look on Credendo website and see how to understand the information provided. So you are now on the website of Credendo. It's in English here, but you can have in French and in Dutch. And so you want to export to a certain country. So first, I will take a good European country with whom Belgium do lots of business, and they are well known because they are good and so on. We go in Germany. And we are speaking of export transaction. So meaning that you don't do investment in Germany because this is totally apart that if a company invests. So we focus on this column, export transaction, political risk. So that means that if there is a shortage of money, if there are riots, if there is revolution and so on. So here we see first the short term and also the availability of currency. We see the short term. What does it mean? That means that between the moment you sign the contract or you accept the purchase order till the final payment, you have normally less than 1 year, sometimes less than 2, but normally 1 year. So political risk in Germany is the best. If you sell, for example, some equipment and so on, and you sign a contract, but the last payment will be in 2 years, then you are in the medium long term. If you are a company in Brussels like B6 and you build some towers or you build some factory or you are active in infrastructure and so on, perhaps you have long-term payment, meaning that your contract is signed for 5, 6, 7 years. So the reality of most of the companies is short-term. So there is no risk that Germany face a political risk. So I remind you that's mostly foreign currency availability. Here, of course, we are in Eurozone, so we don't see. So Germany is very good. But commercial risk, meaning all the private business, not the state, all the private business, the credit insurer consider as bad. We are speaking about Germany. Belgium is the same. France is the same. All this is linked with COVID. So in January this year, Germany was B. In January 2018, it was A. So meaning that if you have to secure payments from Germany, you will pay no higher premium to insure the risk than before. So we were on Germany. And as I told you, they are in one for the state, and they are in C for the average of the companies. In January this year, they were at B. So I changed the country and I go to Bulgaria. Strange country. So the short term, the political risk till 1 year in Bulgaria is the same as Germany. So there are no more political risk than in Germany at 1 year. A little more, medium or long term. Why I take some country, if you go on internet, you can see that in Bulgaria, there were some protests and so on this month, let's say this last month. And so we are less sure about the situation at 2 to 5, 6, 7 years of Bulgaria than Germany. And then here you have a commercial risk. Also see, remind you that I told you in January, Germany was B. In January, Bulgaria was A, meaning that the risk of payment of the average of the business of Bulgaria in January this year before COVID was estimated less than from the average of German companies. So of course we are now in a period of COVID that is unusual, but I explain you this website in order that when COVID will be finished, and I hope soon, you will see that the countries are more different than they are now. So let's change about continents, and we go now to this very nice market that it's China. And so China, and once again, I will tell you the situation at the beginning of this year and now. So the state in China, the political risk, meaning also the level of foreign exchange reserve, is very good till 1 year. At medium long term, it's 2 now. In January, that was 1. So there are a little more risk from the credit insurance point of view to deal with China now than in January for medium long-term project. But one thing has not changed from January and even from last year and the year before. The average commercial risk on a Chinese private company is bad, meaning that it's C, meaning that of course you can have a good client that can, but most of the time with Chinese clients, it's needed to take financial surety. So meaning that in the next seminar, we will see some method of payment. And one thing not to do towards a Chinese client is to deliver the goods and he will pay in 30 or 60 days because you wish that he never pay. So meaning that with China, if you try to cover by a credit insurance your operation, credit insurer will ask you not to be paid by transfer, but to be paid by a mechanism of letter of credit, meaning that's a securitization. I speak there, that can be for services and for goods as well. So we are in China, and you see the state is good, but the private company are not good. I go to a neighboring country of China, I go to Vietnam. And you see in Vietnam, the political risk, let's say the shortage of currency, when it's green, it's still good, but there is a factor a little less good than in China. But what is the important thing of this website? Private business in Vietnam, they pay, meaning that the average of a Vietnamese company, of course you will have to check yours, but the average pay their invoice normally or with a little delay. But in China, if you don't take surety, you risk to face big problems. So that is the story about this website of Credendo. So let's say you have always online a very good tools to check if it's worth or not to go on the market. Just one of my experience of, let's say, this week, I have a client and he wants to deal with a customer in an African country. And he told me that was a good client. And I tell him, take care. Are you sure that it's a good client? Yeah, that's a good client. And they are on a business of $5 million. $5 million. Only by looking this website, I know that Mali, for foreign exchange reserve, that's not so good, and that the average of commercial risk is bad. We were discussing, of course, to secure by a letter of credit. Yeah, there will be no problem. My client is well introduced and so on. And this week, what is the story? The clients accept to open a letter of credit for $2.5 million. A letter of credit, a security of payment, but the money will be received 6 months after the time they deliver the goods. And the other half, the first delivery, the company has to deliver and wait the money from the client for $2.5 million. And I see this, so meaning that the foreign exchange reserves are not so high, and there could be some problem of transfer, and average of the commercial risk is bad. So of course, let's say, if my client want to do a business with this its African client, if they decide, that's their decision. But I highlight them on the risk, because the commercial people told me, oh yes, that's a very good client in Mali. So now, let's say we have done the first part of this seminar. So later on, we will go to, let's say, the tools to be aware of what is inside the market. So now we take a 5-minute break. If you have any question on what we just see, let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Vincent. So if you have a question, don't hesitate to raise your hands. I see that so far there is no question, so it means that your presentation was very clear.
I hope so.
And during the break, I launched a second poll. Have you already used digital tools to find new markets? And more seconds to vote. So here's the results. And Vincent, you can proceed.
So we will go next step. So this was really something you have to go through. So if the market is not good in terms of political risk, average commercial risk, you have to take care. And you need a good reason really to want to sell on the market with bad risk like this. There are some way, but not for most of the companies. That's only some companies involved on some project that can be internationally financed or that can receive support from development agency and so on. But otherwise, you really have to take care. Or other things, if clients really need your goods or your services, you want to be paid before you deliver. So now we go, we go on how to know a little more about a country. So let's say I'm living in Luxembourg, so I have some connection here. And at the Chamber of Commerce in Luxembourg, for each and every country in the world, you have a zone in the world, continent, and so on. So you just click what is the zone you are interested. I will take a country that we already discussed, Vietnam, for example. And in English or in French or in German, you have basic information about the country, including the population. Just for your information, let's say population is something also important. When I start to visit Vietnam, beginning of 2000, the population was equivalent to Germany, 80 million. 10 years after, it was 90 million. So nearly addition of a Belgian population to that country, meaning that you know that in 10 years, you have 10 million people under 10 years old. More than this even. And now, estimated in February this year, we are nearly at 100 million, meaning that in 20 years, you have in Vietnam, in addition of the population, the equivalent of a European country like Romania, for example. So that's some information that can be of interest for you. And of course, here you have the increase of the GNP, and you have a little about the story of a country, and very interesting, the basic information for the last year, 2 years, and for expected for the next 2 years. So you have all this data here. So perhaps you have difficulty to understand, but of course you can do by your own, or some people can help you, even in hub.brussels and all the partners of hub.brussels. But also you can compare, for example, volume of import of goods and services. You can compare the trend in a country and in another. You have some information also at the end. Useful links. So at the Chamber of Commerce in Luxembourg, you have always the link with CIA World Factbook that was previously available in Belgium at Credendo, but not anymore. So let's say you have evaluation of each country according to the American, and you have lots of details and so on what it is about. So for each country, it's made the same thing. You have bilateral chamber also. You have some guide from France. You have some guide from, let's say, doing business in Vietnam and so on. Some German literature, but also here you see there are some links with Brussels. So let's say if you have no idea about a country, just having a look on the website of Chamber of Commerce in Luxembourg give you on the right click, let's say, very quickly, some basic things that can be of interest for you. That was what you can have at Chamber of Commerce in Luxembourg. Now, the cherry on the cake of our today's session. European Union try a lot to develop the business between European companies, but also, let's say, European companies outside European Union. So you have here a website from European Union that is called Access to Market. Till the end of this month, there is a previous site that was in operation for more than 20 years. I was used to use it. But nowadays, let's say from 1st of December, normally you will have only this. For the people dealing with goods only, let's say, there is a very useful tools that I will show to you. So first, let's say, you have to know the HS code of your product if you deal with product outside European Union. The harmonized system codes, that's something done by World Customs Organization that is located in Brussels, and meaning that everywhere in the world, a type of product has a code that is common in 4 or 6 digits. Of course, you don't know the code of your product. You should, but you don't know yet. So let's say we will start with some chocolate. And the chocolate, I want to send them from Belgium till Japan. Search. So now they propose me different code about chocolates. And the different code is something that you have to know about your product, meaning that the 4 to 6 digits, they are the same in Belgium, but let's say here the 7 and 8 digits, we are already inside Japan, and we will know the condition for a product, chocolate, to enter Japan. So first thing, you have to know your products. I already told you during export diagnostic last week that you need to know your company and the products. So for example, and that's why I take chocolate. Everybody knows chocolate, but from the custom point of view, we like to eat white chocolate in Belgium, but white chocolate is not with cocoa, meaning that it's classified somewhere else. And so there are different taxes for white chocolate than for the other chocolate. And you have to know it. And also, let's say, about chocolate, I can find also in Japan that there are machinery to manufacture confectionery, cocoa, or chocolate. So what I want to sell in Japan, it's really chocolate. So now I have all the chocolate, and I have to define what are my chocolate. Is it cocoa powder, like to do with milk in the morning? Or is it in block slab bars more than 2 kilos? So meaning that your individual packing, not the total of what you send, the individual packing is more than 2 kilos. So I give you an example. Usually when you buy chocolates, it's packed by 50, 70, 100 grams. If you have, let's say, 100 grams and you have 20 of these bars, that's 2 kilos. But that's not what we mean here. We mean here that it's really, let's say, a pack full of bar with 2 kilos. If you pack it individually for the consumer by 50 grams, you will be here somewhere. And here they ask you something. So for example, you have to know also your chocolate, because is it chocolate filled or is it not filled? So let's say, and here you have lots of other chocolate. So you have to find the one you are dealing with. So you choose the filled one. And now what they say, be attentive because that's important. So they select the chocolate filled and they just tell if it's coming from most of the country, 227 countries, of which 27 European countries. There are some tax in Japan, 10% to go through the border. That's import taxes. But if you are coming from European Union, you have only 7.3%. And let's say in 2028, there will be not anymore some taxes because we are in a free trade agreement. So you have 10% taxes for all the country. You have 7.3 if you come from European Union. What does it mean? It means that it's better for you than for other suppliers. So here are the taxes. Now, what I want to see is the procedure and formalities to go in Japan. And you have an overview about all the rules in Japan. So we go into it. That's not specific for chocolate. So we go into it. So for example, what interests me is the label requirements. So if I go to label requirements, I have on the individual package to put what? Item description. So not chocolate, for example, country of origin, Belgium. Name and address of a Japanese importer, meaning that if you have no Japanese importer, it cannot go through the border, the customs. Details of composition of the product. So you have to put all what you is made the products. I give you an example regarding this. Some years ago in Belgium, beer was beer. But if you go to Germany some years ago, and still now, it was mandatory in Germany to say that it was made of water and all the things that you put in the beer. Net weight of the goods, if applicable. Date of expiry, let's say like for food. And most important, all imported product and shipping document must show metric weights, okay, and measure, okay. Japanese is to be used in all instances. An English translation must be included, meaning that if you want to sell your chocolates in Japan, it has to be labeled in Japanese. So that's what I discussed about the diagnostic last week. You need to have some people that are able to do this, or from your own organization, or you have to subcontract it. So here that was the labeling. But for example, at the end, you have some packaging requirements. And they speak about a norm here, ESPM 15. And ESPM 15, if you deliver goods in European Union, if it's not only small packages, most of the people use pallets. And pallets are made of wood. Inside European Union, you have no problem. You buy cheap pallets, and that's okay. But if you want to go to Japan, you cannot send wood packing without that they have been treated for food that's high heated treatment, meaning that your pallet need to have some special stamp, and perhaps also, let's say, it's better to do it with plastic pallets and so on. But so meaning that in this part of access to market, you have the rules about Japan. Now general, and you will see that what I told you last week is quite important, because let's say you will do an invoice to go in Japan, of course. An invoice in Belgium that's made by your accounting department or yourself, and usually you do your invoice. If you only deal with Belgium in French or in Dutch, if you don't want to have problem of language, perhaps in English. But so here to go in Japan, you have to prepare or in Japanese or in English, meaning an invoice in French, that's not good. And in Belgium, in your invoice, you have to put some legal requirements that are typical from Belgium, but you have here all what must contain your invoice to go through the Japanese custom. And if you want, you can add some other, but you have the mandatory things. I can tell you, for example, in Russia, they don't say that the invoice has to be prepared in Japanese, of course, because that's Russia, or in English. In Russia, they say that the invoice is to be prepared in any language. Meanwhile, a translation in Russian is recommended, as it is mandatory for custom clearance. So meaning if you deliver in Russia, you need your invoice to be done in Russian or bilingual, let's say, English and Russian, because if you do your invoice in Russian, perhaps you will have problem at the Belgian custom. So here you have all the documents that are normally requested. Some of them, of course, and because we are speaking about documents of transport by air, by sea, and so on, you have all the documents that are usually needed. And so, for example, they speak about some preferential origin documents or non-preferential. We don't go in details today, but just, let's say, go into this. We are in European Union, and there is a document here, and that's a certificate of origin, and they tell you where to obtain it. So in the European Union member states, certificate of origin usually are to be applied by the exporter at the local chamber of commerce, meaning in Brussels, you go to BC at the 500 Louise Alam, Avenue Louise, and so with some proof documents, you will obtain this. Of course, you can do it online, and it will be used to go through the Japanese customs. Of course, here that's this, but there are different rules. So this we will explain later on this specialized seminar about this. So here you have all the things. And of course, you are thinking, yes, Japan is really a good country for me. I want to go there. And so you check on Credendo, that was good. You check now here the tax, that's okay, not too much problems and so on. But there are some specific requirements in Japan for the chocolate. And here, that's authorization of foreign foodstuff manufacturer. What is it? A document certifying that the manufacturer of foodstuff for other purposes than the nutrition of infants have been authorized by the competent authority in the country of export and comply with the principle of hazard analysis and critical control point, HACCP. That's the most strict rules in food sectors. So meaning that lots of companies do chocolate in Belgium, but few of them are compliant with HACCP and are certified HACCP. So if you want to deal chocolate in Japan, the first thing that you have to do is to make your organization, meaning your company, and its product complying with HACCP. And it is written here. May be required for custom clearance and market access. Maybe. Not mandatory. But if your chocolates arrive at the Japanese customs and they are not certified as HACCP, they will block it. It cannot enter the market. And what do you think? No, you will not necessarily have it back. And that's not anyway the best thing, because it's already, let's say, normally you have the label in Japanese. It could be destroyed, meaning that perhaps your client will never pay you and you will not have your product back. So you have really to take care about this kind of things. So that's about what is interesting in this website, access to markets. But if you are more commercial, you have also something interesting to go through. So that, let's say that's more to see if it will be easy for you to go inside that market. So you have the trade flow statistics. So here you can see the average export of Belgium to Japan and the average quantities to Japan. Take care. Here it's in million. And here that's in thousands. So meaning that you see that the value of the export of chocolate in Japan is quite high. And also, let's say, you have the total of European Union in Japan, meaning that you can see if Belgium is well positioned in Japan or not. So I will show you something still with this chocolate. So European Union toward Japan. So here you have a total of European Union, more than 150 million euro chocolate. You go to Belgium, 65 million, let's say. So we are not so far from the half. And our competitors, if you look 64, the next one is France with 33 million. And then after Italy and so on. I change about markets. I go to US. So in US, the market is bigger. Of course, there are more inhabitants. 521 million. Belgium is there, much less. Only a quarter, less than a quarter. In Japan, our competitor was France. In US, that's Germany. If you go inside the statistic, you will discover that the American market for chocolate is mostly driven by cheap chocolates, and Japanese market is driven by expensive chocolate. So of course the amount of the US market is not linked with high-end products, chocolates, but with cheaper products. So if you are in a niche in Belgium with high-end chocolate, of course you can sell to US, but most of the chocolate and this 500 million are relating to cheaper chocolates than in Japan. So that's this access to market. So that's quite a new site. So I present to you all what is regarding the goods. You have also lots of information about the services, about lots of things around the international business. If I have a recommendation to you, of course, it's worth to go into that site when you need immediately some answer and so on. But take always care to have a good interpretation of what you see in this website. And this good interpretation could come from partners and people from Hub Brussels. So if I have an advice to give you, when you are not yet skilled, and I hope that one day you will become skilled, if you are not yet skilled, of course you can go on website and so on, but take care and always validate the conclusion that you are seeing on the website. But this website is trustful, but let's say you have to well interpret it, what we have into this website. So now let's say we are at the end of this second part. So if any question, feel free to ask and I will answer to you.
Vincent, we have one question.
Yes.
From François Van de Brulle en français, donc je vais te la poser en français. Si je veux vendre des produits à un client situé en Iran et qu'il paye les produits à l'avance, y a-t-il d'autres risques à prendre en compte pour faire des affaires avec ce client?
So let's say I summarize everything in English like this. Everybody understand if there are some friends speaking Dutch or in English, and after I will also answer in French. So the big problem with Iran, and let's say you have to understand this, and that's not easy. So to receive money from Iran, you cannot receive money from Iran if you deal in dollars. But I'm sure that our guests say, oh, I have no problem, I deal in euro. Yes, there is no financial embargo of uranium on Iran, but there is another problem. all the commercial banks in Belgium, meaning the commercial banks are the ones that you know, KBC, ING, BNP Paribas Fortis, and so on. What they do in their condition, let's say they tell you that they respect the American law in addition of European laws, in addition of Belgian laws, and so on, meaning that they don't want to be part to an operation with Iran. Meaning that if you have a bank account in a Belgian commercial bank, I will not say it's impossible, but it's nearly impossible to receive money from Iran. What will happen? So the Iranian bank will do a transfer, and when the money arrives on your Belgian banks, your bank will reject it. It will never be on your bank account. Meaning that for the moment, direct connection with Iran from Belgium are nearly impossible. And take care, if you do business with Iran, even your bank can rupt all relation with you because they don't want to be in touch with some people in touch with Iran. So this is something that I regret because let's say I know that this country from my side is not the worst and that we have something, but for the moment situation is very complicated. And so if you ask me this question, meaning that somebody contacts you and Iranian people try to find a way to do business, but it's very difficult. Just to finish the story, it was already long years ago, but it was the actual situation. In a company in France with whom I was dealing, they had to receive a last payment from an Iranian client. So Iranian tried to find a way, and finally, let's say, the money arrived through Central Bank of Germany, so equivalent of National Bank in Belgium. And it was transferred on the French bank account. But the French bank rejected the money, even if it was coming from German Central Bank. So I'm very sorry, but let's say I don't have official way of dealing with Iran for you when you are located in Belgium. There are some possibilities in Germany, but in Belgium, from what I know, not. And one bank was still open till recently on Iran, that was KBC, but nowadays that's more and more difficult. So I'm very sorry for you to give you this bad news. Hope that with a new American administration, the situation can change, because really that's a country where there are lots of needs and lots of opportunity or fair. But take care till it is officially made known that there is no anymore American embargo on Iran. Don't do anything for the moment in an official way. Let's say that is normally the rules of a company. Wait official announcement and not what was done at the end of Obama, because at the end of Obama there were some agreement to be put into place, but even under Obama it was not legally done. So meaning that lots of Belgian companies start again to go in Iran. Even BC do seminars on this 4 years ago, and finally it was impossible to do anything. So that's my answer. So in French, les relations avec l'Iran sont pour le moment très difficiles. Pourquoi? Pas à cause de la partie iranienne, qui a bien des réserves hors devise et tout ça, mais bien à cause du système bancaire. Donc, ça veut dire que les États-Unis ont mis sous embargo financier l'Iran. Donc, ça veut dire que aucun paiement en dollars ne peut être effectué et aucun lien avec des banques américaines ne peut exister avec l'Iran. Alors vous allez me dire, en Belgique, on est en Europe, et donc vous êtes auprès d'une banque belge, ING, BNP Paribas Fortis, etc. Et vous allez me dire, mais moi je ne suis pas dans une banque américaine, où est le problème? Le problème est que nos banques en Belgique sont liées aux États-Unis parce qu'elles traitent en dollars d'autres transactions que celles avec l'Iran. Et donc, les banques belges, pour ne pas avoir de problème avec les États-Unis, appliquent les embargos américains, pas parce qu'ils leur sont imposés par l'Union européenne, mais parce qu'elles s'y soumettent volontairement pour ne pas handicaper leur activité avec les États-Unis. Et donc, ça veut dire que si vous recevez un paiement sur un compte bancaire en Belgique, vous ne le verrez même pas arriver parce que la banque rejette tout paiement en provenance d'Iran ou ayant un lien avec l'Iran. Donc, j'ai cité en anglais un exemple. J'ai travaillé pour une société française il y a quelques années et la situation était la même que maintenant. Un client iranien devait payer un dernier paiement beaucoup après les paiements principaux. Et donc, il avait vraiment voulu respecter ses engagements et il avait trouvé un moyen via la Banque centrale allemande, la Deutsche Bundesbank. Et donc, la Deutsche Bundesbank a transféré les fonds sur un compte d'une banque française, puisque c'était une société française. La banque française a rejeté les fonds. Et ça, je ne l'ai pas dit en anglais, mais je ne sais pas non plus avoir de sécurisation de mes transactions auprès de Credendo sur l'Iran, dans ce contexte-là. Voilà ma réponse.
Merci Vincent. J'espère que ça répond à la question de François. Other things for the access to markets tools, we will have a webinar in 2021 with our trade commissioner in charge of EU, Olivier Costa. You can continue.
We go on the last part of our today's seminar. So let's say you have validated the financial risk, let's say global on the market. You can go through. If you are dealing with products, you have seen this website from European Union. If you are dealing with services, that's a little more complicated. I already started to explain last week, but I will come again on the problem of the services when we discuss about the price in the next seminar before, let's say, end of December. So now, your company is convinced that a targeted market is good for them. So what you can do? What you can do, and of course here we are in the framework of hub.brussels, so you can contact the attaché from hub.brussels that are on foreign markets. And you have here the description of what they do, who they are, and the list of all the attachés here. So you have their area, and then you have all the reference, and of course the market where they are located. Okay. So you have this for many countries. And so let's say, feel free to contact them. To contact them, please, I deal also with these attachés. If you say, yes, I'm this company and I want to sell on this market, you don't present yourself, you don't present your product and your services, you don't present who are the clients you targeted in the market and so on. They cannot do everything for you. So you have to know already where you put your feet and what are the services that they can provide to you what are your needs and so on. If you cannot explain your needs, they cannot do it for you, okay? They have to work for a community of companies. So they are not, let's say, one of your employee or one of your consultant and so on. They are there to help all the companies.
Vincent, just a little poll before you continue. So have you already met a Hub Brussels Trade Commissioner?
Oh, sorry.
Ten more seconds to vote. Okay, thank you. So most of you have already met our trade commissioner. For those who haven't, feel free to contact them. They will be glad to answer to your question. If Vincent, you can continue.
Okay, thank you. So these attachés are really, let's say, people that can help you at the condition that I told you. But of course, there are some people, let's say, they are more, let's say, like the actual trend and so on, to do everything on the internet. And I would like to draw your attention on something. You have a tools from Google, Market Finder. I put you the link, but of course you have to register. That's Google. So they do mining of your information to use it by themselves also. This Market Finder, I would like to draw your attention that you have to take care about this, because I was to a seminar from Google and from a top key speaker of Google. And Google, let's say, that's like they search tools. They consider the tool as a country. They consider, let's say, the world as a country, sorry. So what is the big problem? And I explain you exactly what they say. You are commercializing a chocolate confectionery in Namur. You have a shop there. Be aware that the world is perhaps waiting you. So what you do, you put your product on tools of Google's. And they say, oh, like this, somebody in Austin see your confectionery. He can be interested and order it. Okay, we are inside Belgium. Nearly no problem. Somebody in Hong Kong can do the same. Sorry, I don't agree. Because there are some customs rules, there are some controls, there are some rules to respect. So Market Finder of Google is a tool, interesting, but take care. It doesn't give you all the aspect of international business that we are working to tell you during this series of seminars. So don't think that commercializing country of services can be done by a simple click all around the world. It's very something complicated. I'm involved now on the Bulgarian market to do some operation. Even you cannot believe that Bulgaria is more strict than Belgium for lots of rules. You think, oh, you go to Bulgaria, that's a former Eastern European country, oh, that must be easy, they don't control so much. They control more than in Belgium. So Market Finder, it can be useful for some people, but take care to well understand what is the meaning of selling abroad regarding the labeling of our product, regarding the cost that you will have. It will be done during a seminar in the next weeks. So take care of all this, because if you sell your chocolate 15 euro in Namur and you say, oh yes, in Hong Kong I will sell 17, perhaps you will not be a your cost. So that was about Market Finder from Google. Something interesting at the level of Belgium, let's say there is a federal agency dealing with foreign trade. So most of the activity has been transferred to region. That's why we are with Hub Brussels today. But they have still a rules, and I put you the link in French and in Dutch. So for the people interested by, let's say, public markets, so for example, selling to Hub Brussels or selling to the French state or selling to Italian army and so on, there is an application, Trade for You. And this application, you can fill what is your company, what product you do, which market you are interested, and so on. You have lots of things to fill. And then after, you receive automatically a link with some public tenders that are launched all around the world. And these people, let's say, have quite a good experience in this. So if ever you are interested by public tendering and so on, it's an interesting tool. And finally, there we come for company active in product, but also in services, mostly on European Union market, even if there are some links sometimes with Switzerland, so with Turkey and so on, but that's mostly for European Union markets. So Enterprise European Network, that's an initiative from European Union. And the target is that the SMEs of European Union meet each other. Let's say the seller can sell their product to new customer, and opposite, the people who need some products or services can meet some suppliers and so on. So if you have not yet been involved in such way, that's something that you can do also. And you can have also, you can discuss with Hub Brussels also on these topics, because part of the program of Enterprise Europe Network is also, let's say, Hub Brussels can help you to enter in the system for some activities. So that's all for all the websites. So the conclusion of today. So selecting a foreign market to develop and extend the activity of a company must be done according to the size and the experience competence of the company and its members. Members, that means the people that are working inside the company or the shareholders and so on. So meaning that was already at the diagnostic export that I highlight this. It is mandatory to be able to secure the payment to receive from a new market in order not to jeopardize the future and the financial strength of your company. So that's nice to have contact abroad, outside COVID area. That's also nice for some people to travel, or many people to travel. But don't forget, if you go on foreign markets, that's to win money, that's not to lose it. So never sacrifice your traditional buyer in Belgium or in some, let's say, usual market to do an adventure somewhere in Asia and so on, because perhaps it will be more complicated to succeed there, and you will have some problems with your financial structure. So always be careful when you go abroad, and be sure not to jeopardize the future of your company. I don't say that you have to stay on Belgian market, because if you are only staying on Belgian market, you never see competitors, you never see the idea of others. So it's necessary to go abroad, but always estimate the risk. And finally, with access to market, I show you for the product, but let's say for the services we will discuss in the next seminar. The level of accessibility to a market, as well as the possible margin benefits, are also elements to be considered. So that's all for today. If you have any question, feel free to ask if you want that I answer now. Otherwise, let's say you can always contact me or people of Hub Brussels, and we will try to solve, let's say, your issues. So many things for today, and I'm available for your questions.
Thank you very much, Vincent. So if you have questions, you can ask them now or send them by email, no problem. I don't see question, okay. So let's have a look at the agenda. Hope you see the agenda on my screen. So next week we will be talking about which sales network you need to use for your business. Then we will be talking about adapting your product or your services for sales abroad, how to set the price for your product, and then we will have a Christmas break. And we will come back in 2021 with 2 more webinars about digital marketing and how to prospect efficiently. So thank you very much, Vincent, for your presentation. Thank you very much to all of you. Thank you very much for all of you for being here today. And I hope to see you again next week. Bye-bye.